this is my review of Steven Universe, the movie. Okay, so if you guys don't know, I am kind of a big fan of Steven Universe. I like the show. It tackles a lot of mature themes head on, and if you haven't watched it, it kind of ended not too long ago, and it's pretty sure it's on Hulu or wherever, so if you want to catch up on it, I recommend watching it there. But the movie kind of takes things in a little bit of a different direction, and I do enjoy that, and I will be discussing what I think is good about the movie and what I think isn't good, because I did just watch it with my sister and her friend and her friend's little brother, so I kind of have an idea of what's going on. But the story is set 2 years after the show, and Steven, now 16, has helped Homeworld attempt to reform their ways and helped fix a lot of things that were wrong with their society. And while it seems a pretty shoo-in and a pretty fit that Steven is going to finally take his mother's place as the new Pink Diamond, Steven unfortunately has to turn it down and tells the Diamonds that while he is appreciative of what they've done and how they've fixed their stuff, he does point out that his home is really on Earth, and that points out that while he does appreciate what they've done, he does want to go home and spend some time with his buds. And I can understand that, but the Diamonds aren't so forgiving, mainly because they're kind of upset that Steven is just kind of leaving them, because from their perspective, Pink has been gone for 5,000 years, and they only just got her back, quote unquote. So they're kind of a little bit butthurt that Steven is just kind of leaving now, because they want him back, and they're kind of projecting onto him just a little bit, because they want Pink to be back, and they want to be able to adore Pink like they used to back in the old days. And it's revealed through this little montage that while they have changed, or at least they're trying to make an effort, there's still some things that they have to work on and are still stuck in their ways just a little bit. And they are trying to fix things for Steven's sake. So at least they have that going for them. And they do, and this movie is indeed a musical. So yeah, there are a lot of musical numbers in this film. So yeah, if you want an encapsulation of what makes Steven Universe great, just watch the movie. It's full of musical numbers and full of memorable moments. So yeah. Despite them singing a song about how they just want him to be able to adore him, even though he's not actually Pink Diamond, he has to refuse and heads back home, where he meets up with Connie, who is going to space camp, and points out that her parents are trying to encapsulate her interest just a little bit better, because throughout the entire series her parents just kind of struggled with that a little bit, and they weren't exactly the most understanding. So, but now they've worked on that after meeting Steven and realized that they might need to treat their daughter a little bit better, because Dr. Maheshwaran was kind of the cause of the strain in the relationship, and now she's a bit more accepting of Steven, so now things have started to mellow out there. And she gives Steven a kiss on the cheek before leaving for space camp, and then Steven sings a song about how everything is great now and how everything is in its happily ever after, as with several of the crystal gems tuning in to basically give their 2 cents on what happened, while also giving backstories to all the gems and where they come from and what happened, which comes into play quite a bit in the film. And we also find out during this musical number that they've actually built a place for all the corrupted gems, because if you don't know, Steven Universe, throughout the course of the show, Steven and the Crystal Gems fight a lot of corrupted gems throughout the course of the show, and corrupted gems, for lack of a better word, are kind of mentally unhinged because of something the Diamonds did a long time ago that they're trying to make up for now. But because of something they did, the gems are unable to remember what they used to look like or even who they used to be, and have taken on several monstrous forms that Steven and the company would have to fight off on a daily basis. Mainly because they're kind of pose a danger to themselves and everything around them. But now, thanks to the Diamond's help and trying to make up for what they've done, and because of the final episode, Change Your Mind, they actually did fix most of the corrupted gems with some deformities. Obviously, everything can't go completely back to normal, but a lot of the gems have indeed regained their physical forms, albeit with some slight deformities. And Steven is just happy that everything is now happy and peaceful, and asks Garnet if it's always going to be that way. But then Garnet hesitates, and because she uses her future vision to see the future, because that's one of her powers. And she hesitates because she sees that something is coming that isn't going to be completely peaceful, and something is definitely coming. And not 2 seconds after she says that, unknown gem, who I'll picture here, it's explained later who she is, but for right now she's unknown to us, appears with a giant injector full of a mysterious liquid that she crashes into the back of the temple and starts injecting the mysterious liquid into the ground. And Pearl immediately recognizes who she is, but it isn't able to get out who or what she is until much later in the film. And we find and the mysterious gem kind of sings a song and points out that she's here to ruin their happily ever after, and gloats about what her plans are in a very catchy musical number reminiscent of old cartoons, because that's what the gem looks like. She looks like something out of an old cartoon. She looked like she walked out of the 1870s or something like that. That's what she looks like. She looks like something out of Cuphead. That's literally what she looks like. But yeah, and the tune is very reminiscent of that. They didn't shy away from that at all. They knew what they were doing with this character, and it shows. And while she's singing, the mysterious gem pulls out a material weapon, and then that's shaped like a scythe, by the way, and then slices all the gems in half before attacking Steven. And Steven is able to take the attack no problem, and is able to defeat the mysterious gem with the weapon she brought, but not before the gem reveals what her plans are about what she's done with Steven's gem. He's not going to be able to use his powers all too well with what's going on with him now. And then points out that his human half isn't going to be able to survive what her injector has in store for him before poofing. So, and Steven immediately figures out something's wrong when he tries to bubble the mysterious gem, and for whatever reason isn't able to bubble her. So he just scoops up all the gems and brings them back to his house and calls his dad while he's waiting for them to reform. And his dad shows up and Steven catches him up on what's going on. And then Pearl begins to reform, but something is off. So Pearl reforms with a giant clam around her as like a kind of, I don't know, like an illusory clam, and her gem is just glowing, and she herself is not coming out of the gem. And then after a bit of a back and forth about some settings and stuff like that, it becomes quite evident that Pearl has been set back to a factory reset by whatever it is the mysterious gem has done, and through a song begins to reveal what each of the gem's purposes are. And this is when we get the name drop for the villain. So the villain in question is named Spinel, and when she reforms, she's a completely different character. Don't get me wrong, design-wise, she's exactly the same as she was back when she was in her villain form, but now she's a bit more of a squishy, happy, friendly type of character. So she's a lot more friendly, a lot more pleasing to the eye now. And you start to question, well, what happens that she's suddenly so dark and menacing? And that comes into play later. And after realizing something is very wrong, Steven brings the newly reformed gems to Peridot, Lapis, and Bismuth. And when shown and Bismuth is kind of confused at first, but is able to explain it rather easily when Steven pulls out the weapon that's Spinel brought with her. And Spinel obviously is completely oblivious to what's going on because it's explained that the weapon she brought is called a Rejuvenator, which is designed to reset gems, for lack of a better term, back to their their original factory settings. Kind of like a computer. All their memories and all of their experiences are reset, and they're back to how they were when they first emerged from the ground, which would kind of explain why Spinel is no longer remembers being a villain. And Spinel is very clingy to Steven. That comes into play a little bit later. But when Bismuth explained, but after trying to piece together what they're supposed to do about what they are, mainly because they're the rest of the crystal gems are kind of MIA at the moment, mentally at least. Bismuth, Steven starts to give up hope, but then Bismuth and the remaining crystal gems sing a song about what's going on, and point out that they're going to figure out a way. At which point Spinel pops up with an idea that they need to find all the pieces of their memory to be able to piece them back together. And they immediately start with Garnet because Ruby and Sapphire are kind of there, and they try to engineer a scenario where they would be forced to fuse back together, and where Ruby saved Sapphire from an attack back when they first met. So Steven tries that with a giant buzzsaw-like pizza cutter thing that Peridot just has, and they try and attempts to threaten Sapphire with it, but Sapphire, using her future vision, realizes that Steven is not going to be a threat to her, and Steven admits that she's right and puts the weapon down, and then Ruby gets interested in Sapphire's abilities and begins questioning what else she can see. And then, down to a T, Sapphire begins to predict exactly what's about to happen to Ruby. And it gets a little bit crazy. So Spinel picks up the giant pizza cutter thing and accidentally sets it off, and it goes flying around all over the place, causing all sorts of damage, which in turn results in a Rube Goldberg situation where a giant anvil is about to crush Ruby, and Sapphire runs in to save her, and the two fuse. But that's not enough to bring Garnet back completely. And realizing he needs some work, he brings Spinel with him, and he and Spinel go and look for Amethyst because she just wandered off because Greg was supposed to be looking after her, but because Amethyst just kind of does whatever she wants, she kind of just wandered off on her own. And she eventually winds up in Vidalia's art studio and begins to rekindle their relationship with her, which fixes Amethyst, but who immediately freaks out upon seeing Spinel, mainly because Spinel has caused so much problems already, and she hasn't even been around for like an afternoon. But after explaining what happens, he explains the situation about Spinel and what happened to the other gems. And they immediately realize that the next target they need to figure out is Pearl, because Pearl knows Spinel. She knows that Spinel is the kind of what Spinel has done and who she is. So they have to find a way to fix Pearl, which is kind of a problem because Pearl is kind of imprinted on Greg and is seeing Greg as her new master, which is the problem. So but then they realize that the best way to solve the situation is via the rock show, which is being held that night despite the big looming injector that's slowly killing the planet and is mainly meant to keep morale high. They have everybody come into town and sing a song specifically designed to bring out Pearl's rebellious side, which doesn't exactly work all too well because as I said, Pearl is kind of imprinted on Greg as her new master. So now she's completely devoted to Greg, and as long as he exists, there's no real chance of her ever fixing what's wrong with her. And at which point Steven gets an idea and decides to fuse with Greg. And the fusion we don't really have a name for yet. So until they actually had name dropped the new fusion of Greg and Steven, I'm just going to call him Mr. Universe because he's basically a rock star, and that's kind of Greg's whole thing. But anyway, Mr. Universe then sings a song to Pearl about what she wants to be, and because Pearl is no longer tied down by Greg, she's able to finally come out of her shell. But Spinel runs off because it's established that she's a bit clingy, and it's pointed out several times at this point that Spinel has attachment issues. So she runs off and goes to the nearest warpad, which just so happens to be at Steven's house, and And when he confronts Pearl about and what happened, Pearl points out that he doesn't really know what happened to Spinel because she's been gone for 6,000 years and they don't really know what happened to her. So he runs after Spinel to go find her, eventually finding, as I said, at his house, and asks Spinel what exactly happened to her that caused her to become the way she was. So Spinel brings him back to the old garden where she and Pink Diamond used to play. And it's revealed in song just exactly what happened to Spinel to get her so warped and twisted up to this point. So apparently, Pink Diamond used to play a lot with Spinel, but then when Pink Diamond got her colony, she told Spinel to wait there, and then left and never came back for 6,000 years because throughout the course of the series we find out she faked her shattering, then became Rose Quartz, then became Steven. And she never came back in the 6,000 years. And the first contact Spinel had with Pink Diamond in 6,000 years was finding out that she was no longer around and that she had been survived by her son, who is now championing a new era of peace for Homeworld. At which point she regains her memories and returns back to normal. Well, normal-ish. She'll never be normal again because of what happened with her. And Steven immediately sympathizes with her and helps her move on from Rose, Pink, whatever her name is, because she has so many different names. He helps her move on from Pink Diamond and has her remove the injector from the planet. But then things go wrong because Garnet still hasn't gotten her memories back. So obviously she finds out that Steven had a rejuvenator on him, which kind of fell out of Steven's pocket when he tried to move the injector, and she picks it up, and Spinel, upon seeing it, realizes that she thought that Steven was just gonna reset her memories again and keep her the happy, innocent little Spinel that she was. And Steven tries to point out that that's not what's going on, but Spinel won't listen, mainly because she's that upset, because she thinks that Steven is going to abandon her just like Pink abandoned her 6,000 years prior. And then uses Garnet as a hostage and tries to point out that if she just prefers those points of her so much that he should just leave Garnet like that. But Steven is very adamant on the fact that he's not going to because it's not the truth, which winds up being the final piece to get Garnet's brain to just click and fix itself, and Garnet fully reforms back into herself. And with the Crystal Gems fully reformed as a fighting group again, they face off against Spinel, but Spinel is unwilling to give up and jumps to the top of the injector and then fills the entire chasm where they're fighting with biotoxin, which is designed to kill the planet slowly and painfully. As I stated, it's kind of killing the planet, but. And while the Crystal Gems go to save everybody up at Steven's behest, Steven goes to face off against Spinel and try to explain the situation and try to fix her emotionally so that she can finally move on from the whole mess that Pink Diamond has made for her. And Steven finally confronts her, pointing out that he just wants to be her friend and just wants to fix things. But Spinel is having a hard time listening, mainly because of how upset she is at Pink Diamond and how much she's projecting onto Steven. And while she does hold her own against Steven, and Steven is kind of getting just casually wrecked by Spinel because Spinel has these elasticity powers that basically make her impossible to hit. They are able to face up. She is able to finally realize that he is not his mom, just as the injector is about to explode because of the ensuing fight between the two of them. And Steven saves her, brings her back to the crash site where she was, and she does try to leave, mainly because she wants to just have a clean start and fix everything she's done and try to make friends again. And Steven isn't entirely sure how he can help her, but then the solution to both their problems arrives in the form of the Diamonds, who just casually show up after discussing that they wanted to move in with Steven because they missed him so much. But Steven isn't really willing to leave his old life behind him just yet, and probably never will. But then he offers them Spinel, and Spinel kind of just fills the void in their heart when Pink left, and Spinel kind of fills in as a replacement Pink Diamond for them. And Spinel finally is able to have friends that actually enjoy having her around. So now Spinel has a happy little family, and Steven goes back to trying to fix things that Spinel has left behind, and tries to fix all the problems she's caused. And that it's a really good film. This review probably didn't do it justice, so just watch the film. But it is a great film. I enjoyed it. It's a great way to end up the series, unless they decide to make more of it, because there are some loose ends that they haven't buttoned up yet. But yeah, I'm interested to. I enjoy Steven Universe. I enjoyed this movie because they introduce a single new character in this film, and her backstory is that she has abandonment issues because her best friend, who was supposedly supposed to be with her forever, just casually up and left and never came back, and left her to rot for 6,000 years. That is some hardcore stuff. And Steven isn't entirely surprised that that's what happened, mainly because Pink Diamond / Rose Quartz has done so much worse in her 6,000 years around, but now Spinel actually is able to finally open up as a character, and I do hope we get to see more of her going forward, because her single appearance in this movie just isn't going to be enough for any fan, because she's such a cool character. She's got probably not one of the best backstories in the series, but definitely one of the most intense, because she was just left to rot for so long, and the first thing she hears is that her best friend died and completely forgot about her. That couldn't have sat well with her at all, and it didn't. And immediately the first thing she does is grab a bioweapon and plant it on the Earth. That is some hardcore stuff. But yeah, Spinel as a character is interesting because she's a throwback to old animation, and the story is supposed to be and the story for the movie is supposed to be an epilogue for everything that's happened up to this point, and it is very good at doing that. It sets up its whole A plot and its B plot. You got the A plot, which is that there's a giant super weapon that's going to destroy the Earth, and you've got this new character who just doesn't remember any of it. But what's mostly impactful about the film is the fact that it gets what is at the core of Steven Universe, which is just Steven connecting with people, and that's what the whole film is about. It's about him reestablishing his connection with himself as well as his family, quote unquote, and helping them remember who they are and remembering who he is, and remembering just using that power to help fix Spinel's heart, for lack of a better word, because her gem is literally a heart. But yeah, Steven is trying to help a villain once again who has lost the capacity to love because her best friend just left her alone and didn't want to be bothered with her anymore, and just threw her away when she no longer had use for her. Spinel. Most of this is going to be about Spinel, but Spinel is an interesting character. I like her very much as a character, and yeah, I hope she comes back because Steven Universe. I mean, Rebecca Sugar said that she might want to continue the series, but she might not. Who knows? But there is a possibility of a season 6, and I hope we get to see more of Steven trying to just be himself and trying to fix all the messes that have been going on. Because there are a lot of things that they didn't button up in the series that, well, most of what they had set up have been buttoned up by this point, but there are quite a few things that they didn't. And I hope they continue to look after those and continue to fill out those storylines. Because while the final episode and the movie did kind of button things up for that, there is quite a bit that they didn't, and I hope they continue with the series and try to fill in all those missing pieces. But yeah, Steven Universe the movie was great. If you like Steven Universe, watch the movie. If you want to see a nice heartwarming story, then watch the movie anyway either. But it's a good story. I like it. I hope you guys will consider watching it. And yeah, it's a great little film. and it's just a great little finale for the series, unless they decide to make more. But it definitely does feel like the story's complete with some loose ends, and I do hope they continue with the story, at least in some shape or form. But anyway, yeah, if you guys have seen Steven Universe the movie, then what did you guys think? Let's get a discussion on in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below. And also, check out my Patreon in the description below as well if you want to help support the show. It's only a couple bucks a month, and it really helps me out, so I would definitely appreciate if you did that. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace!